from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Wednesday night edition of the program. It's Hump Day, and we're live and national. If you want to join our late night national conversation, give us a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And what I'm looking at tonight, the dueling interviews. Right, you've got El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States, stepping into enemy territory, going on the stage there with Univision, the Spanish language broadcast channel that has really historically never really been very fair with him. And I thought he handled it well. Of course, they got into some interesting, dicey topics because they were just there to trip him up. It wasn't like they wanted to know what he's going to do for America. There's so many things that he's been talking about. He was at the Economic Club yesterday, and he really went into depth on a lot of economic topics. And instead, they decided to ask him about a bunch of different topics like conspiracy theories and, just trying to trip him up. And then you have the Vice President of the United States, who many like to call Madam Vice President, which I think is appropriate, right? We call him Mr. President, Madam Vice President. But Madam Vice President, que mala eres, which means how bad you are, and how bad she is indeed, Kamala Harris. And she says to Bret Baier from the Fox News Channel, again, her stepping into enemy territory, if you will, that everything's Trump's fault. So we're going to get to those in a second. Then let me see what else we've got going on. We also have a couple of interesting things here. She continually gets mocked, I feel, when she goes on these interviews. There's always a critique. There's never like a stand away. For example, J.D. Vance was on just even the interview he did with Martha Raddatz, right? That was a very good display. He had good command of the interview and the subject matter. But his debate performance, I think, was unmatched, right? The other guy didn't even come close. The other guy being Don Rickles, the governor of Minnesota. I'm truly forgetting his name. Tim Walz. So this is so different in that she doesn't really do well here, right? Neither does Walz, for that matter. So I don't think there was any standout moments where she was like, man, she really did a great job there. What I will say is there was a moment where she, began talking over Bret Baier to try and overpower him and really try and control the direction of the interview. He was trying to hold her accountable on something. She was totally obfuscating, but she did it artfully, in my opinion. I feel like if you'd never met her before and you watch this with a very fresh pair of eyes where you don't know who she is, you don't know who he is, you would have said, you know what, I think she was being fair. I don't know. I don't think she was being fair, but I think she played the role well. Another one who does that, in my opinion, pretty well is Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff has this ability to play almost a victim, right? He's very good at like, well, no, why? Well, it's just a gift that I think some people have when they're being deceitful. And she was able to do it there and seem like he was the aggressor, and she was like, kind of like what she did to Mike Pence, where she got a lot of credit from a lot of people, not necessarily her critics. But when she said, excuse me, I'm talking, right? That was a huge moment for her. A lot of people loved that, especially women that were like, good for you for standing up to the old straight white man who happens to be a Christian. Good for you. So I think for that crowd, she scored a couple of points in that department. But really, in the substance of it, we're going to get into it. Then El Trompito, he's on with Univision. And they get into all these crazy questions, in my opinion. They don't really want to know what he has to say about things that are really of importance, right? They're more concerned with just hoping that he'll say something where they can then again just play a soundbite on loop. Kamala Harris just happens to say things You don't have to try and trip her up, right? She just gives you those things on legitimate questions, things that you can play on loop that become instant memes. So we're going to play some of those latest hits in a little bit. And for the rest of this first part of the show, then we're going to get into some other stuff on the American Dream with somebody who built a $250 million company. And while he loves America, he has a couple of pieces of advice on the American dream and how it's not what it quite used to be and how we can maybe get back to it. So we're going to talk about that as well. Plus all of your calls and more in the third hour of the show. But I want to start off with a little bit of a kind of crosshairs, right? I shouldn't use crosshairs. I might get in trouble. Kamala Harris was in Pennsylvania today. She's on the stump. And she considers any American who doesn't support what she does, right? Who doesn't support her and Tim Walz, she thinks that they are the enemy because of the comment that he made saying that there are enemies within. Now, we talked about that yesterday, that even Abraham Lincoln said that this country would be brought down by an enemy within. And Trump was very clear in saying that when the government is weaponized against you, when you have, the lawfare, when you have this illegal immigration, when you have all these things that are destroying the country and the people allowing it to happen are the enemies within. If you're weaponizing the government against someone, you are the enemy within. If you're allowing the border to be opened up, and in fact, weaponizing the border against the American citizenry, right? Because that's in effect what's happening in Aurora, Colorado, in Manhattan at the Roosevelt Hotel. You are the enemy within. You're the one that's hurting this country. The cartels can try and aim and aspire to send as many people as they'd like to this country. But if we stop them at the border, they're not getting in. And they're going to have a heck of a harder time getting in if we're trying to stop them rather than trying to facilitate them by turning our border agents into travel agents and saying, where would you like to go? Let's get you a plane ride. Forget coming to the border. We'll fly you right in. Just go to your local consulate and we'll get you a ride. I mean, the things that are going on are crazy, and they're using the CBP app almost like one would use Expedia.com to try and get a good deal on a vacation. They get it for free. Absolute insanity. So we're going to get into that stuff. Now, I want to get into the nuts and bolts of these two TV news interviews with somebody who I believe would be excellent at breaking this down. And, of course, that would be somebody who owns a TV news channel. Chris Ruddy is the CEO of Newsmax TV, and he's going to be scheduled to join us in a little bit to talk about the Dueling interviews, the Fox interview with Kamala, and the Univision interview with Donaldus Magnus El Trompito, the 45th president of these United States. So I want you to keep it locked right here as we get ready to kick off an amazing show for you. Here's the number one more time, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. I'll be getting to your calls probably in about, I'd say, a half hour or so, 25 minutes or so. So you could weigh in on your thoughts on those competing interviews with Trump and Kamala. So keep it locked right here. We're coming right back. Don't move a muscle. Chris Ruddy coming up next.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
You said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration, even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed.
Okay, so that, of course, is Brett Baer from the Fox News Channel doing this interview with Kamala Harris. And she decided to go into probably the most challenging interview she's ever had. And of course, Que mala eres means how bad you are in Spanish. And I think it's such a fitting name for her. So Vice President Que mala eres is there, and she seems to have this little bit of a meltdown, saying it needs to be fixed. Well, she's the one that broke it. Now, I want to get some reaction to this from somebody who understands cable news better than all of us. And that's Chris Ruddy. He's the CEO of Newsmax TV, which has a upcoming IPO, and we're going to talk about that in a subsequent segment. But Chris Ruddy is here with us. Sir, welcome.
Rich, thank you for having me on. Always great to be on with you.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure. Now, I don't know if you got to see the interview. I know you're busy running your media empire. However, we had that clip for you. And how do you think that Que mala eres did in this interview with the competitors?
Well, Kamala, at least, again, she didn't want to answer the questions. She does the filibuster, right, where she just speaks and speaks and speaks and gives a non-answer. And then when she's pinned down, she doesn't really want to answer. I don't think she has the answers. I don't think she really believes in anything. And this has been a problem all along. And the only reason she's doing these interviews like Fox and Charlemagne of God, I don't know why he says he's of God. I'm not sure. He's neither Charlemagne nor of God. But she's doing these interviews because she's been criticized for being afraid of the press. Donald Trump will go and talk with anyone. He's unafraid. I mean, he was just on with Bloomberg. He's been on with CNN. He's not afraid. And when he was president, I think he was the most engaged president in the history of presidents, modern presidents, in dealing with the press.
I agree
so
with
he's
that,
a unique
100%.
guy, and the public likes that, and they think that she's hiding something. Somebody that's a Democrat told me today that supports her and said, the problem is people don't know her. And the problem is the more they get to know her, they don't like her. That's the problem. She was riding high in the polls after she gave the speech at the DNC in August. And it's been downhill ever since.
Yeah, there's a lot of negative reaction, at least what I'm seeing online about this interview with Brett Baer and Que mala eres. And the first thing that comes to mind is, I'm sure I've invited her on the show. I know that you would offer her an opportunity on your network. But these types of platforms are ones I feel that she would always avoid and she wouldn't ever accept. But could you imagine how beneficial it would be to the American people to have a real kind of long-form, tough interview with somebody on Newsmax?
Well, she wouldn't want to do it because she's afraid. We've had many Democrats on. They're all treated fairly. Bernie Sanders was just on Newsmax a couple of weeks ago. John Fetterman comes on Newsmax regularly. And why? Because he knows we do ask tough questions, but we're fair. We're not out to ambush people. Unlike the treatment Donald Trump gets from places like CBS or ABC. The media, part of the problem is he's not just battling Kamala Harris, he's battling the whole media establishment. 90% of the media is liberal. The Gallup study just came out in the past week, said that it's a historic low for media, why people distrust the media, and they don't want to fix it. They don't want to, in fact, they're giving up any pretense of being fair. I think it's one of the reasons, Rich, Newsmax is growing so greatly. We were up double digits in almost every day part year over year. We're the only network to do that. We're now the fourth highest rated cable news channel. We're vying with CNN for ratings. The Reuters Institute just came out and did a study and said there's 12 top news brands in the United States Americans go to. Newsmax was one of the 12. And I think it's not so much the work I'm doing or the work our talent does. We have a great team with Greta Van Susteren and Rob Schmidt, and now Rob Finnerty, Greg Kelly, Chris Plant. But we have a great viewership, and they're not stupid. They're looking at these channels and they're saying who reflects the values I care about, who's giving me fair journalism, who's giving me both sides, and Newsmax is doing that. So I think, we're labeled as being conservative, and we do, but we're also labeled as being independent. And I think it's one of the, and we've had you on many times, and we certainly like to air all points of view, as you know.
Yeah, of course. And I always enjoy my conversations there as well. Chris Ruddy, CEO of Newsmax TV, a lot of the reaction that's coming on through X and through other social media on Instagram that I'm seeing is very negative for Harris, that she really just didn't really answer any questions. There was one survey, I don't have it in front of me, so I can't cite it, but indicating that people are still just not sold because she really, like you said, she obfuscates from answering the questions and really just kind of dances around them. Do you think this is a strategy that like Biden did, a little rope-a-dope and get you through Election Day? Do you think she's able to pull that off? I think he was only able to pull that off because of COVID and some chicanery at the ballot box. But we don't have COVID, and I think everybody's kind of hip to what's going on at the ballot box, and more eyes are open. I don't think that she's able to kind of stutter her way through Election Day. What say you?
Well, there was actually a poll question that was asked. It might have been part of the exit poll, but certainly part of the 2020 poll. Are you voting for Donald Trump because you like Donald Trump or you hate Joe Biden? And most of Trump's voters said they're voting for Trump because they like Trump. But when they got to Joe Biden, they said, are you voting for Joe Biden because you like him or because you hate Trump? 2/3 of those voters said they were doing it because they hated Donald Trump. So I think this is the strategy the Harris people are doing, is not so much voting for her, but voting against Trump. And that's why they have so many negative ads, negative articles. We're going to probably see a few things drop in the next few days against the president because they are fearful that he will come back. And they're doing everything to stop him. But, it's interesting. There was a number of polls out today. The Marquette poll had him 50-50 with Harris. I mean, that's a liberal poll. And he was dead even. They're both tied, which usually means that the Republican Trump is doing actually better.
Right.
And that he's because the polls have typically underweighted him. And so there's some evidence that, he may be well ahead now. Now, there were two other polls out today. One was the Marist poll, which had him down 5 points. And the TIP poll, the TIPP poll, which I think has been the most accurate in recent years, had him down 4 points. So it's an interesting phenomenon, but it suggests that he's strong, he's doing better, and I think that he's got a real shot. I think it's his to lose, and but I think she's running a strong campaign thanks to the media and thanks to the money she's raising.
Yeah, considering most of the debates that she does are her and the moderators against Trump, I would agree. Folks, we're on with Chris Ruddy, the CEO of Newsmax TV, and we're going to come right back and discuss Trump stepping into enemy territory with Univision earlier tonight. We got a couple of clips of that. They offered some really hard-hitting questions, and of course I say that very tongue-in-cheek because they were asking him about the silliest things. And of course we're going to learn more about the upcoming initial public offering of Newsmax TV with the CEO of Newsmax TV, Chris Ruddy, who's with us now. If you're tuning in now, great. If you want to give us a call shortly, the phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And, of course, if you missed any portion of the program, you can always check it out at richvaldez.com. That's Valdez with an S. Keep it locked right here, folks. It's Rich Valdez. We're coming right back with our guest, Newsmax TV CEO, Chris Ruddy.
America at Night, your home for the best election coverage.
All right, familia, welcome back, amigos. We continue our late-night national town hall conversation live. If you want to join us in a minute, we're taking your calls, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Of course, I am Rich Valdez. I'm with you till 1 a.m. Eastern Time. And our guest is the CEO of Newsmax TV, Chris Ruddy. And Chris Ruddy, former President Trump, was on this town hall with Univision, the Spanish language news network. And he was asked a question by Jose Saralegui, a 67-year-old engineer who was born in Mexico. And he asked him if he actually believed that Haitian immigrants were eating cats and dogs and other pets in Ohio. This was the hard-hitting question that they gave him at the Univision town hall. Listen to this.
The authorities in Springfield, Ohio have more than one time clarified that the Haitians are not eating their cats and their dogs.
Sin embargo, usted les quiere revocar su permiso que tienen para residir legalmente en este país.
Nonetheless, you want to revoke the permit they have to legally reside in this country.
Mi pregunta, con todo respeto, es si usted verdaderamente cree que estas personas se comen las mascotas de la gente.
My question to you very respectfully is, do you really believe that these people are eating the people's pets?
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And this was just reported. I was just saying what was reported. That's been reported. And eating other things, too, that they're not supposed to be. But this is, all I do is report. I was there. I'm going to be there. And we're going to take a look. And I'll give you a full report when I do. But that's been in the newspapers and reported pretty broadly.
Now, again, that's El Trumpito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States. And Chris Ruddy, when you hear this, I'm thinking they're going to have some hard-hitting questions on things that really matter to the Hispanic community and to Americans overall. But and they did ask other questions, in fairness, but I can't help but think this is some sort of plant, because who really cares about this? Chris Ruddy.
Well, look, Rich, I think that the old days, you had Walter Cronkite and Brinkley and Frank Reynolds at ABC and these guys, and they made an effort, even though they were liberal, to be a little fair, and they realized they had to give both sides. Now the media just has no pretense, right? They're just Univision, has a long history of being very liberal. They did do a poll recently that found that, which was rather amazing, that Spanish-speaking Americans in all the key battleground states that they polled are supporting Donald Trump. So the immigrant community that these comments might impact, it likes Trump. And so they're seeing through some of this, and they don't like them. The media, as you know, as I mentioned in the last segment, according to the recent Gallup poll, have the lowest ratings of any one of the major institutions in the United States. And it's just complete free fall, and especially among the Republicans, they have no confidence in the media anymore. And that's why I think Newsmax has been growing. We just announced last week that YouTube TV is putting us on their systems. Now everybody knows
Congratulations.
YouTube. Yeah, thank you. It's huge news. YouTube is a free video service, but they also have a pay TV cable service, and it's one of the biggest in the country now. Yeah, they just signed up the NFL football. Now Newsmax is on with all the major networks, so it's over 8 million cable homes. It's probably going to 12 soon. That puts us in almost 60 million cable homes. We're one of the top-tier cable. And as I mentioned in the last segment, our ratings have been soaring. We're reaching, last month, we reached over 33 million Americans last quarter, according to Nielsen, which is up 45% over the previous quarter. An incredible reach. And it's really exciting. More and more people are tuning in. That's one of the reasons why we decided that we're going to go public later this year, early next year in an IPO. And we're really excited. We did file with the SEC, and we're awaiting their comments and approval. But we're planning on it, and it's a very exciting opportunity, we think, for us and for Americans across the country to join with us.
Amigos, we're on with Chris Ruddy, the CEO of Newsmax TV. And Chris Ruddy, Newsmax has consistently been, from what I've seen, one of the top 5 cable news networks and clawing its way steadily but surely further up that ladder. And with this upcoming IPO, where do you see the network with the launch of Newsmax 2, the N2 channel, and everything else that you have in the works, where do you see yourselves in the next year or two?
Well, we're already one of the major players in American media right now. As I mentioned, Reuters Institute just said there are 12 news brands that everybody goes to, and we're one of them. So it's an amazing thing. President Trump has praised Newsmax, says he watches us all the time, or encourages people to go watch us. He says very critical things of Fox News, says that people should turn them off. But you know what? At the end of the day, we're just presenting a product, and the public offering, we announced it over the summer. It's gotten huge support and interest. We created a website called newsmaxinvest.com. That's one word, newsmaxinvest.com. And people can go there, sign up with the email box if they're interested in the IPO information, that as we get that approved. And second of all, they can actually buy early shares in Newsmax now. They're called preferred shares if they're eligible. Eligibility is set by the government, not by Newsmax. But if you're eligible, they can buy shares even using a credit card. We've had over 45,000 people, Rich, come onto the newsmaxinvest.com page and say they're planning to invest in us. And we're really excited. It's just an exciting opportunity. And the shares that people buy now actually come with a discount to the IPO price. They come with a dividend. So it's, I think, a great opportunity, and one of the reasons why we've had a lot of success with it.
Well, folks, Chris Ruddy has to say nice things about Newsmax TV because, he started this thing. And I remember back when it was a blog, and then it went to a cable channel, and it's big time today. But I can tell you, I do a lot of my show prep with Newsmax on in the background, keeping an eye on what's going on as I monitor the news. And the analysis is great, but the reporting is also really good. They have great talent there, great reporters, and great opinion contributors. So I definitely recommend giving them a shot if you're not already. And Chris Ruddy, for anybody who's not already plugged into Newsmax, what's your advice to them?
Well, if they, first of all, just you can download our app on your smartphone or iPhone.
Yeah, I have it. It's only $4.99 a month. Newsmax Plus. It's fantastic. I recommend it.
Yeah, and you can get our app. Downloading the app doesn't cost anything. You just get Newsmax app, and then if you want, you can sign up for newsmaxplus.com, and it's only $4.95 a month. And we already have close to 300,000 people have signed up for it. And they get Newsmax 1, they get Newsmax 2, they get a new channel that we've launched called the World at War, a military channel. Very exciting.
I haven't even checked that one out.
Yeah, no, a lot of great stuff is happening with us. It's very exciting. And, the YouTube channel has just launched. We're on all the major cable, YouTube TV. So it's been growing really nicely. I think that this presidential election, if you're not hooked in, I think we have one of the best news reporting systems, both online, on television. Dick Morris, who's a close advisor to President Trump. John McLaughlin, Trump's pollster, is on. Mark Halperin, Alan Dershowitz. I mean, all the major people are on Newsmax, a lot more than they're on Fox.
Outstanding. Chris Ruddy, we've talked a lot about Newsmax, and I want to make sure everybody knows exactly where to go if they want to sign up or if they want to take a look. Where do they go?
Well, if you're interested in the public offering and the planned IPO, we're planning to get listed on the New York Stock Exchange. If you want to get in early, go to newsmaxinvest.com, newsmaxinvest.com. Read all the information. If you have difficulty with the online portion of it, there's a button that says Invest Now. You can ask for mail. We'll mail you the documents that you can look at. So that's all there. And then if you want to go to our app, just go to newsmaxplus.com, Plus, newsmaxplus.com to sign up for the app. You can watch us anywhere in the world right now. Exciting stuff, and we really appreciate you've been an early supporter, Rich, of Newsmax, and we greatly appreciate it. You were ahead of the curve. You've been ahead of the curve on so many things. Now it's Newsmax you've been ahead of the curve on.
Outstanding. Chris Ruddy. Folks, newsmaxinvest.com if you want to learn about the IPO and get in on that and cash in as they blow up. And, of course, newsmaxplus.com if you want to check out the full app, which is, I have it, I use it, and I recommend it. Chris Ruddy, you are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. Godspeed to you and everything you're doing with spreading the truth. I appreciate it.
Well, you're a true patriot and a Latino voice. We need more of you in America. And keep up your good work, Rich.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Amen. Amen. And folks, we're coming right back. Your calls and more are coming up. 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Congratulations on just an amazing show. I know you've worked so hard in the industry, and nobody deserves it more than you do. So I'm happy to see you really succeeding here. It's awesome.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
it's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a cakewalk.
So are they misguided, the 50%?
Listen,
are they stupid? What is it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
Wowzers. Now I got to say, listen, pay close attention. All my haters, listen, pay close attention. I think she handled that very well. I'm going to say that if they asked the same question to Trump, I'd say they were trying to bait him, right? They were trying to come at him. When you say, are they stupid? She handled it well. Right? She said, no, of course not. Why would you say that? Right? She kept it super clean. That's the way to do it. You don't take the bait. Say, no, you're stupid, Brett Baer. Right? It's probably what I would have said if I were her. Good thing they don't put me in that job. But I thought she handled it well, and she did a beautiful pivot to saying, no, but it's Trump that talks about the enemy within. Now, listen, I'm not on her side. I think her rhetoric is fake, phony, and fraud. But that was a move that I'd say, it worked well. Her supporters are going to look at that. Even people who are critical of her, who may not know her, or people who are just undecided, are going to look at that and say, I thought she answered that fairly. Now, if I had to say, was the question asked fairly? I guess, sort of fairly. But the are they stupid was a little bit leading. And I guess he's got the right. I would have. I don't know if that would have been the follow-up I would have asked. But I don't think it was a horrible one. It was just a provocative one for sure. That was designed to get that reaction. And, I guess that's what we're doing here, right? We're interviewing the vice president running as presidential candidate. You want to get something juicy. So I don't fault him for asking that question. But I will say, was there some beta on that hook? For sure. And did she take it? No, she didn't. So did she implode in other parts? Yeah, I think so. We'll play another clip of that in a little bit. We have a couple more. But I want to get your thoughts on this stuff. Let me see. Let us go to Tom calling us from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on KDKA. Tom, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdez. Welcome.
Rich, great show as always, amigo.
Thank you, sir.
Rich, the road to the White House goes through Pennsylvania, and Donald Trump certainly is making his inroads here. There's going to be a rally in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. They expect 20,000 people there. I'll be there. Trump is going to cook French fries at a McDonald's. Kamala Harris supposedly worked at a McDonald's.
She used to work there. Right. Maybe they could do a French fry cook-off.
Yes, and he's going to be at a Steeler game Sunday night, and the slogan already is, we're going to make the Pittsburgh Steelers great again. And the October surprise may have taken place here in Pittsburgh. Trump is projected to win every county outside of Allegheny County, and that's where the Democrats have a stronghold. And the county executive there, 2.5 weeks before the election, wants to impose the highest property tax in 200 years. And the people here are in an uproar. And if Trump just wins 35% of this county, he's going to win Pennsylvania and on to the White House. And just one more comment, Rich.
Sure.
An ABC poll mentioned that Kamala Harris is not getting the black support that she expected. I think the poll registered 70%, and they said if she doesn't get 90% of the black vote, she's going to lose the election. Your comments, please.
Sure. I saw a similar poll. I don't think it was ABC News, though. But I saw one where she's losing support with minorities, in particular men. And I don't think the number has to be that high as 90. I think if she falls beneath 70%, she's probably guaranteed to lose because there just won't be enough support from the base there. So I think this is why I don't remember the last time anybody was asking black men to vote in any election. I almost did a Schumer and said erection. I don't remember that ever. And the reason I don't remember it is because they always counted on them, right? I just can't. I'm trying to really rack my brain right now. So the fact that Barack Obama's been out on the campaign trail saying, I want to talk to the brothers, and they've had all of this push towards getting black men to consider voting for Kamala Harris because they've defected to the Trump column, I think speaks volumes about how poorly she's doing within her party ranks, right, within her base. So I think that analysis is accurate, whether we agree on the number or not. If the Democrats don't show up to vote for her, she's not going to win. This is, in effect, how Reagan won when he had his landslide victory. So I think that the elements are there for that to happen. Does it mean it's going to happen? No, of course not. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do think something our guest just said, Chris Ruddy, CEO of Newsmax TV, said this is Trump's to lose. I think I stand by that. I think this is Trump's to lose. He's just got to keep it in gear, keep his foot on the gas, and go for it. And she needs to do the same, right? Just keep doing what she's been doing, and I think it's just going to continue to implode. Thanks for your call, my brother. I appreciate it. Shout out to Tom in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on KDKA. Folks, keep it locked right here. We come back with your calls more. Kamala Harris, Trump, and their dueling interviews. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation with you all, the American people. And the number, 866-505-4626. I want to go to Charles calling us from Rutland, Vermont on WVMT. Charles, go for it.
So good to hear Chris Ruddy. I've admired and been grateful for his efforts for years. Some truth and reality. Is that too much to ask? One thing I would have liked to have asked him is, and I have a couple points I want to mention as well. But you know, I've been tortured since the late '80s at the power of the edit of this the majority media. You know, leaving out things.
Oh, yeah. The lies of omission. Charles, the music means we're out of time. We have to start a new hour of the show and pay some bills. But if you want to call us back or hang on the line, I'm happy to finish the end of your thought. I really do appreciate it because I believe you're right. The editorial control of the media is something else. Folks, we're coming right back. It's Rich Valdez, America at Night. Don't go anywhere.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Wednesday night edition of the program. We're live and national. Here's the phone number, 833-4825-337-833-4Valdez. And we're talking about a bunch of things tonight, not the least of which is what happened with the American Dream. But we're also getting reaction to the dueling interviews that happened in the TV news world tonight. Of course, Donaldus Magnus El Trompito, the 45th president of these United States, Donald J. Trump, he squared off with Univision at a town hall where they were asking him all sorts of questions. And, of course, then, que mala eres, that's right. That means how bad she is, by the way, in Spanish. Kamala Harris, the vice president, she sat down with Bret Baier on the Fox News channel for an interview as well, a lot more hard-hitting. I think he asked her a lot of very pointed questions, trying to bait her into some provocative responses. And I got to say, she handled some of them well. Others, she kind of fizzled and said the stupidest things and just backpedaled and didn't give any answer at all. But I'm glad that she finally did the Fox News debate. And I would love for her to do a Newsmax debate. That would be great. I'd love her to come on the show even. That would be nice, even for just a quick call. So, Vice President, come on. I don't know how many voters you'll get, but you can see I get a lot of haters on here. So there's probably a lot of Kamala people that listen. A long tradition in talk radio. So they've always said that half of the people are sympathetic to my point of view, and the other half can't stand me, but they listen because they want to be informed. So I always keep that in mind when we're doing the program. And the other thing I wanted to talk about tonight was a quick news headline. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the group One Direction. It was a boy band, and they've continued into their young adulthood. My kids really enjoyed them when they were younger. But Liam Payne, Payne, he's dead at the age of 31. They're saying that he jumped from a hotel balcony in Argentina. Others are saying that he fell off the balcony. We don't know. Honestly, I don't know the answer. There's a lot of controversy there. Apparently, there's been photos that have already been posted online of the whole thing, and it's truly a shame. Honestly, what are you going to do? Never fun, right? Never something you really want to talk about, but it's there, so we're talking about it. And I will continue. Just wanted to say that because I know that these guys are enormously popular, hugely popular. And I want to play a clip of audio for you. Sorry, lost my train of thought there. There's a train of audio, right? That I think I played it before, but I want to play it again because I think it makes sense. Or maybe I didn't play it. But we've got Kamala Harris in the sit down with Bret Baier, and she goes into this back and forth with him on Trump. And Trump wanting to jail people and using the National Guard. Right? I think there's one we haven't played, Count Delacula. Let's play that one.
An enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So, Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
Well, he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you,
that was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy.
Oh, boy. She really went off there. And he seemed to not be able to really get control back. I mean, he did eventually. But my point is, she went off on a tangent here, right? She said he talked about turning the military on people conducting peaceful protests. That's never happened. The only time he's ever talked about using the military was to arrest bad people, the people he's called the enemy within, the people that have allowed illegal immigration in our country to the point where we now have gangs from other countries taking over apartment buildings in Colorado, although it's just a handful, right? Albeit a handful. He's talked about using the military against people that were bombing and firebombing police stations in Minnesota, where her running mate Tim Walz resides, and allowed all of this to happen. Not on you and me. In fact, it's her administration, right, that has used the Department of Homeland Security to go after moms and dads at school board meetings on targeting radical traditional Catholics who attend Latin Mass, calling them rad-trad. I believe that was her administration. And I believe it was her boss and her partner in crime, Joel Baboso Biden, who says at her rally yesterday in Philly that he thinks Trump should be in prison. Listen to this.
There's the same guy who's been held liable for $83 million for sexual abuse and defamation. Same guy for getting rid of Roe v. Wade. The same guy who has 3 other major cases waiting for him when he loses. And by the way, 34 felonies. And so far, he hadn't got sentenced. He got the sentence kicked back, but I want to watch that sentence. Look, Donald Trump's not running for you. He's running for himself. I think he's running to stay out of jail. What's he got left?
I don't know. I think he's got a whole lot of money, a whole lot of properties all over the world. Seems like he's in pretty good health. I don't know. It looks to me like he's got a lot going on. Running for president is probably costing him. Anyway, you tell me which of these two is trying to weaponize the government. Biden, who's sitting here, who knows this stuff inside and out, right? He knows how they've used the lawfare against him. He knows how they've weaponized the justice system against him. He's got every last thing. Joe Biden, who doesn't always know his wife from his sister, but he knows everything that's going on with El Trompito. That smells a little fishy to me. And I think if anybody's using the military and weaponizing the government against anybody, it's the Democrats versus Donald Trump. And this is why I never support using the military for these types of things. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a chat board researcher enthusiast that calls yourself a patriot and loves Vladimir Putin and thinks that we need the military to take over elections or the military to step in and run the country. Absolute insanity. Absolute insanity. This is how the left operates. This is Fidel Castro's wet dream. I hope nobody ever really subscribes to that type of thinking. Anyway, I want to get some thoughts from you all, our callers. Charles in Rutland, Vermont. You were hanging on very patiently. Go right ahead, sir.
What a nice analysis you just gave, a current rebuttal.
Thank you.
We've had the freest press in the world, I believe, for all these for centuries. But I think they're getting away with murder. The left, the vast majority, abusing the power of the edit. Basically, it's censoring. So many people only listen to the mainstream media everybody I'm related to is in this camp, and I get the sense that they wouldn't go near right-wing media, TV or radio, because they're brainwashed that don't listen to those fascist haters. We'll take care of you. Don't pollute yourself. So if you have a vast a vacuum of ignorance, whatever they say, they think it's still, I don't know what, 1947.
Yeah.
And they have faith. Now, I have a number of points here. I would have loved, as I said before, to ask Chris Ruddy, but you and all the other top people who are giving us access to reality and truth. When Joe Biden failed and got fired, the whole world saw that he was not adequately functioning,
right.
And there should be a hue and cry against all this vast media who perceived it and deprived us of that reality. You got a president of the most powerful country who was clearly impaired for the last number of years. We're lucky; worse things haven't happened. But the light should be shown on these people. They should be called to account.
I think you're right, Charles. And what I'd like to say in response to that is that the way that I believe the only fair way to call the media into account, because again, we're not monolithic. It's like saying Hispanics, right? Puerto Ricans are different from Cubans and Dominicans and Mexicans and Ecuadorians. We're all different. But I will say that the people in the media that are actively lying, actively editing answers, creating new answers, faking things like a la CBS News lately, these people should be held to account in the court of public opinion, I think, principally, right? If you know that CBS is fake and phony and fraud, no more CBS Morning News, right? No more whatever it is that you do with CBS, and you start that way. Everybody can take a stand. I take my stand very publicly, and I'll say, I think what you're doing is wrong, and I'll call them out on my airwaves on the 200 and whatever stations that we're on with millions of listeners. Amen. Praise God. Hallelujah. And I'll do my part, and everybody's going to do their part to make sure that we correct that wrong, because I believe in the free market. And when you don't like something, you don't buy something. You don't participate. You don't give it ratings, whatever it is. Eventually, if you don't feed something, it dies. So I think that's how we handle that part of the media. I would be very leery to have a government entity say, "Excuse me, we're going to prosecute you because you lied." Well, I think they could lie all they want. That's the objective of free speech, is that you're allowed to lie. You're allowed to lie. You're allowed to say mean things. And I like Voltaire said, I would never. I may not agree with what they're saying, but I'll defend their right to say it, because the same way they could sit there and say whatever they want to say, I'm going to have my response, my rebuttal. I'm going to say what I want to say. And the minute that you give that authority, it's kind of like the red flag laws with guns. The minute that happens, where you allow some sort of government entity to say, hey, we're locking you up because we don't like what you said, they're doing it on both sides. So I say, to prevent it and to give we the people all the liberty and freedom that we're due by God, we don't ever do it. And that's my stand on it. But thank you, Charles, in Rutland, Vermont, and thanks for holding on from the last hour to do that. Now, folks, slightly behind schedule here. I want to get into a topic of the American dream, and I want to talk to somebody who built a $250 million company in America, living the American dream, but has some thoughts on how it's not the same. It's not quite what it used to be, and his musings on how we get back to that, and his thoughts on Trump, Kamala, and everything else in between with respect to the American dream. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
The American dream right now is really elusive for far too many people in terms of even aspiring to own a home. It's too expensive. We don't have enough housing. We have a housing shortage. So part of my plan is to work with the private sector, with builders and developers, to build 3 million more homes by the end of my first term, and to give first-time home buyers a $25,000 a down payment assistance so they can just get their foot in the door to home ownership, which is the fastest and the most efficient way for people to build intergenerational wealth. These are the ways that I think about.
That, of course, is Kamala Harris, who I like to call Que mala eres, how bad you are, is what that means in Spanish. And I believe she is bad, because I believe the reason that the American dream is elusive is because of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's policies. And that's not very helpful for American families today, young men and women, people trying to make it. And I think that's why this election is so contentious. But when we're talking about the American dream, there are some people that have made it in America, and some that have made it and written about it, like Dr. Bernie Mullin. He's the author of Reimagining America's Dream. He's the founder and chairman of the Aspire Group, which handles ticket sales for sporting events and sports teams like the Washington Nationals and so many others. Dr. Bernie Mullin, welcome.
Rich, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on.
It's my pleasure. Now, I just played a clip of Kamala Harris saying that the American dream is elusive, and she talks about housing and other things. And but she raises some points that I agree are critical, like the ability to have intergenerational wealth and people buying homes, and all of that to me seems elusive. And while I'll fault her and Biden and that administration, there's a larger conversation to be had there, and I'm curious to know your thoughts on that.
Could not agree more, Rich. I was very fortunate. I grew up in England. I had my mother's uncle, who was Canadian, who moved as a boy to Canada and became rich. He'd worked for a cork factory that did the Seagram's whiskey corks, and the family had no kids. And when they died, he inherited the business. And he talked about Canada when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, brought his family over. I didn't know the difference between Canada and the USA. It's all the other side of the Alio, as we used to call the Atlantic Ocean in Liverpool growing up. And then I had my dad's cousin, who was a VP for Vicks Pharmaceuticals, who came over to build a factory in England for European distribution. And he spoke about the Yankees, bloody Yankees. But, I'm talking about the baseball team, of course, and America. And of course, I became infatuated, came as a summer camp counselor at age 21, came as age 23 to go to grad school at Kansas, and I've never left.
Wow. So, well, hang on right there. I don't want you to go too far too quick, because we got to take a quick pause, and I want to come back, but I think that's a perfect place to take a pause. We're on with Dr. Bernie J. Mullin. He's the author of Reimagining America's Dream. And I didn't know that part of the story, that you grew up on the other side of the pond and made your way over here and loved it. Of all places, coming to Kansas and sticking around, which is a pretty cool story. So we're going to come right back with Bernie Mullin. He is the founder and chairman of the Aspire Group, sports marketing company, built it to $250 million, and not too bad, not too shabby. So we're going to learn about that and talk about reimagining America's dream. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. We continue our conversation with Dr. Bernie J. Mullin. He's the author of Reimagining America's Dream. And we left off with him telling us about how he grew up in England and was part of a family that made some wealth making corks for Seagrams. And he's now in graduate school in Kansas in the United States and loves them Yankees. Dr. Bernie J. Mullin, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Rich.
So let's pick up where you left off. You come to America, this place that you knew existed, but you didn't know much of because you didn't even care about what was going on in Canada, right? You're from England, and here you are. What happens next?
Well, I was so blessed to be welcomed by all the people in Heartland, Kansas. How does an Englishman end up in Kansas? Well, and then fall in love with American sports. Steak, beer, and football and basketball, of course. The people were just so friendly, so warm, and so appreciative, and we decided that my ex-wife was from England and the mother of my three kids, and decided to build a house and, get loans from the banks, get loans to start a consulting business. I mean, I was making $6,000 in cash, plus all the tuition as a graduate assistant, and they gave me a $6,000 loan. I mean, I never have got that in England, at that stage in my life. So I just fell in love with America, fell in love with the lifestyle, fell in love with the people, fell in love with the ideals, and I think what bound it together for me, Rich, was the American dream. Better life. For me, I define it as a better life for me and for my kids and my grandkids. And 52 years later, that's what I've been able to do with an amazing career in sports and entertainment. So I feel incredibly blessed.
Well, let's talk about the book and the story behind the book and really the inspiration, right? Because it seems to me today that Democrats are killing the American dream. It seems like Trump can save this dream. But what was the impetus behind your book?
Well, first off, it was thank you, America. I can't believe you let me in, but you did. And God bless you. So it's definitely an immigrant story, but it's an immigrant success story. And, I think there are a lot of things that are killing the American dream. And I'm an independent. I sit in the middle. I look at candidates and I pick, a candidate that I can believe in that is going to build the America that I think we need to have. And, I'm a little different, Rich, in that I think America is still great. So I disagree with Donald on that, but I don't think we're excellent. And I want us to be excellent. And I believe in the enemy of excellence is good, because too many people will accept good rather than excellent. And that's what's driven me in my life and my career and the organizations I've run and I've built. So it's a nuance, but it's let's make us excellent. Let's get rid of all the warts. I believe in America first, so I'm on board with that very much so. But I think that, we do have some problems, so let's solve the problems. I believe that like a chain, it's only as strong as its weakest link. And our weakest link in America, I think, are the poor and those that have unfortunately had the least quality education, which tends to be the poor, tends to be the minorities in this country. I don't believe, and, my dad taught me two things. One is your word, your bond, honesty and integrity. And number two, elbow grease, hard work.
Right.
And so nothing in this book is about giving anybody anything. So there's no entitlements. And I think that that's the biggest problem with the Democrats and what Biden and Harris have pushed, in their 3.5 years. And she would continue. And I just don't think giving people things work. I think people have to earn it. So the book is all about how do we give people the opportunity to earn.
Folks, we are on with Dr. Bernie Mullin. He is the founder and chairman of the Aspire Group. It's a sports marketing firm. And he's the author of the book, Reimagining America's Dream. And Bernie Mullin, when we talk about moving forward with the American dream, what does that look like for young people today? You've made it. You've come to this country, borrowed $6,000 and became a multimillionaire. how do you advise, or what's your your outlook for young people?
Well, I can understand why they're concerned and they're depressed and they're unsure, and why it's such a tight election, because you look on the one hand of a party that gives away stuff, and I can understand how that is attractive. It's fool's gold, and you would like to think that people understand it's fool's gold. The analogy I would always use, and I apologize, it's not politically necessarily correct, but it's a young woman that has an affair with an older, wealthier man, and she thinks that the guy's going to leave his wife and then marry her and be faithful to her. It's like, what, are you kidding me?
Right. What are you smoking?
Yeah, what are you smoking? I mean, surely to God you realize there's something flawed, in that first premise. So why the heck would you think, it's like these young athletes that, with my career in sports and entertainment, that would take money, and loans and payments under the table from agents. And you think that guy is honest and trustworthy, that you're going to give him your career and your money? Crazy. So why would you do that? So, the book basically channels my journey from state to state. Rich, I hate politics, as you can probably already tell. I hate politics. Too
busy making money.
Yeah, I understand. I don't understand why people go to Congress, relatively poor, and they come away multimillionaires. I mean, that to me is the first alarm bell.
Red flag.
What the hell happened there? But so it goes from state to state. I've lived in 3 time zones. I've worked in the 4th time zone, so I've worked in all 4 time zones. But so it channels my career going from job to job to job, becoming more socially aware, becoming more, I suppose, political. And then it's the Pew Research of the top 10 issues why people vote, and simple problems for them. And it starts with what I was saying before, the weakest link in the chain, which is poor people, less well-educated people. How do we give them the opportunity? And it starts with a dose of reality. One of the biggest problems in America is so many people talk about equality. We're all equal. Well, we aren't all equal. And whether you believe in God as I do, or whatever the creator of the universe is, we were all given very different talents. I don't want to be careful before someone says, well, they want to kill me. I'm not suggesting some people are lesser than others. What I'm suggesting is we're all equal under the sight of God or a creator or a maker. We're all equal under the law, but we are not given equal gifts. And so what it's about is giving everybody the opportunity to maximize their gifts. And that's very different. And that's the reality we have to teach our kids, Rich, is, look in the mirror. I can remember going bald. I hated it.
Me too.
I'm bald. It is what it is. God only made a few perfect heads, and the rest he covered with hair. So
Amen to that.
You learn to live with it and you move on. And my dad was a sergeant major in the Army, tough son of a bitch. And, at 8 years old, I washed his car. My dad went from being an assistant in a grocery store, the cheapest of cheap co-op grocery stores. Terrible job. We're income subsidized housing. We had meat maybe 2 nights a week for dinner. It was what it was. He then goes and sells life insurance and does incredibly well. And we move up to middle class. I'll never forget those roots, but those roots were honesty, integrity, hard work, elbow grease, got you where you got. And so that's what the book talks about. So it starts with universal preschool paid by the government for everybody, not just the poor, everybody. So the families with more money can spend the $10,000, $15,000 a year on whatever they need to spend it on. That single parent, teenage pregnant mom now has, $10,000 to $15,000 more in their pocket for quality education. And the goal is that child goes to kindergarten able to read, write, do basic math, be socialized, to take instructions and get along with their peers. That alone will be a massive difference. And the cost per year is about what we just gave to Ukraine and what we gave to Gaza and Israel. And I'm not suggesting take it away. I'm saying go find $100 billion and invest in our kids.
Folks, we're on with Dr. Bernie Mullin, and we're going to explore some of the stuff he's talking about because I think these are some very interesting ideas. And, of course, we're going to get to your calls a little bit after that. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. America at Night, your home for the best election coverage.
All right, amigos, we continue our conversation with Bernie Mullin. He's the author of the book, Reimagining America's Dream. He's the founder and chairman of the Aspire Group, a sports marketing company. And Bernie Mullin, I want to talk about some of the stuff you just mentioned about schools and education and all of that. But I want to start really just following up on some stuff you said before, which is really just a little bit of the biographical stuff. I feel like we kind of glossed over it, and it should be something we take a good amount of time in, is really getting into, you come here, you get this $6,000 loan. What'd you borrow the money for? Was it the same business that you have today? How did this Englishman just get here and get involved in, selling tickets for the Washington Nationals? How does that happen?
Well, no, it's not the same business. It was just consulting business, small business consulting that I was doing in Lawrence, Kansas. And then, when I graduated with my PhD and an MBA, the easiest way to get a green card, to be honest with you, Rich, was I was offered jobs in the business school at University of Texas in Iowa, but I was offered a job that was actually in the School of Phys Ed at UMass in Amherst, Massachusetts, to build a sports business degree. And so I did that for 10 years and started a similar consulting business during that time, and wrote the book on sport marketing, how to put butts in seats. As a result of that, I got a job as senior VP with the Pirates in '86, stayed with them for 5.5, 6 seasons, turned them around, became one of the first employees with the Colorado Rockies, broke all the Major League Baseball and world sports attendance records there. I knew that to be where I wanted to go with my career was to be president and GM of a Major League team. I knew I needed to run the sports side of the business because I'd run the business side with the Pirates and the Rockies. And so I went to minor league hockey, International Hockey League, Denver Grizzlies, created them. We did so well, we put ourselves out of business. The Avalanche moved to town. I moved on to become vice chancellor of athletics at the University of Denver because my kids were all in high school, and I wanted to stay in Denver with them going through high school. And then from there, I got hired by the ultimate Jersey boy, David Stern, commissioner of the NBA, to be senior VP of marketing and run the team business function, which was a McKinsey-style best practices unit. Did that for 4 years. One of the things I did was created a Owners 101, which was sit down with the owners. Mark Cuban was one of them, the Maloofs, and then the Atlanta group. Explain to them, what have you bought, what haven't you bought, to tell Alexander and the Houston Rockets that, you have Yao Ming, but you can't go to China and do a deal with Qingdao Beer in China. You can do one with the regional distributor of Qingdao Beer in South Texas, but not internationally, things like that. And in doing that Owners 101 with the people that bought the Atlanta Hawks and Atlanta Thrashers of the NHL and Phillips Arena as it was in those days, they said, would you become CEO? So I asked David if he'd let me go, and he said if that's what I wanted, he'd let me go. And 4 years there with 9 owners that fought each other in court, Rich, sued each other. Wow. Nasty nonsense. Finally said, you know what, I'm tired of trying to make rich people richer. How about I make myself richer? And we built the Aspire Group, and In 16 years, we did $1.5 billion worth of revenue for 300 clients that included the NFL, U.S. Open Tennis, a whole bunch of colleges and pro teams. And, you know, I've been incredibly blessed wherever I've gone. And really, more than anything else, it's, you know, people go, what the hell are you doing writing a book like this? And I've always seen myself as a mentor and a coach, but I got a ghostwriter on the book. And at the end of 18 months, you know, 2 90-minute sessions every week, he said to me, how do you see yourself? I said, coach, educator, mentor, developer, people. He goes, yeah. He said, you're a community builder. And so I'm like, oh, wow, I never thought of it that way. And he was so right. And the centrality of the book is, how do we rebuild the American community? And it's by getting everybody directed in the same direction. The American dream, a better life for everybody. And we do that by pushing from the bottom up. So, but again, we don't do it by just giving money to the poorest, minorities, most at risk, most marginalized. We do it for everybody. And then there's no argument against it. And we start with education. We start with preschool. The research shows that if by third grade you're not reading at third grade level, you are 5 times more likely to get involved in crime, be in prison, teenage pregnancies, substance abuse, whether drugs or alcohol, and other social problems. And so when people ask me, where the hell are you going to get the money from? You know, unlike the money that we give to Ukraine, I'm not saying don't give it to Ukraine, or the money we give to Gaza and Israel, I'm not saying don't give it to them. What I am saying is invest in our own kids. And within 10 years, the reduction in all the social programs, the handouts, the entitlement programs that we're giving away right now, that reduction breaks even within 10 years. And then you've got the rest of their lives. And if their life expectancy is 80 years, you've got 70 years of productive people who will build wealth, who will be doing great jobs, produce enough revenue, produce enough GDP, and not be a sponge sucking out of our systems. And that, to me, is the biggest problem with the Democratic philosophy today, is that they are reinforcing. And let me give you one quick example.
Well, before you do, let me just take a quick pause and come right back to you. Folks, we're on with Dr. Bernie J. Mullin, Reimagining America's Dream. Keep it locked right here.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation with Dr. Bernie J. Mullin. He's the author of Reimagining America's Dream, founder and chairman of the Aspire Group. You can find them at theaspiregroupinc.com and his website, BernieJMullin.com. Bernie Mullin, your final thoughts.
Well, the final thoughts is one of the big idea is pre-high school, rising freshmen all go for an 8-week sleepaway boot camp. You know, I know how to run camps. I know what the economics are. At this camp would be teaching them how to be an adult, teaching them how to be an American. John F. Kennedy's asked not what the country can do for you, what you can do for it. Learn how to cook, learn how to exercise, learn how to be a man or a woman.
Outstanding. Dr. Mullin, I just want to tell you, I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm going to have you back just to talk about the educational component because I think it's really important. I appreciate it, sir. You're literally a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot.
Thank you, sir.
You bet. Folks, we're coming right back. Valdez, America at Night.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to hour number 3 of our program. We're live, we're national, and we're looking to speak with you. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez is the number if you want to join us in what we call Open Phone America. Open Phones Across America is the third and final hour of the program where we speak with you, all the American people, to our affiliates in New York, in California, in Chicago, in South Carolina, Utah, Idaho, Arkansas, Oregon, Florida, Delaware, California, Oregon. We've got a lot. So I want to hear from all of you. Again, that number, 833-4-Valdez. And tonight there were dueling, I don't want to say debates because they weren't debates and they weren't both town halls. Trump did a town hall. And Kamala, the vice president, she did a sit-down interview with Bret Baier on the Fox News channel. So Trump went into enemy territory and he spoke with the folks at Univision, the Spanish language network. And Kamala sat down in what she calls enemy territory with Bret Baier. And I have to say, both had very hard-hitting questions. The Bret Baier questions were clearly superior to the Univision questions. And why were they clearly superior? Because they made sense, at least. Despite him, baiting her into a provocative response in one part that we played earlier, he was asking questions that made sense, and they were good, and we're going to play some of that. But with the other one, it was just really baiting, all of it. In my opinion, it didn't seem like they were really trying to find out what Trump was about. It was more like, we don't like Trump. We think Trump is bad. We're going to operate under the assumption that Trump is not that good. And we're just going to ask a couple of questions where we think he's just going to tell us how bad he is. And we can just prove it to everybody who already knew that. And that's not really journalism. That's not really even giving, I'm not a journalist, and I think I do a better job of letting people express themselves than they do. But all that being said, there was a softer side, right? You will remember when Kamala, the vice president of the United States, was asked on last Thursday, at the interview that she did with Stephen Colbert, to say something nice about El Trompito. And, this is oftentimes a debate question, or, somebody will say, what do you think about your opponent? Something nice about your opponent. And here is what she had to say.
Carlos, could you please give me 3 virtues that
could you mention 3 virtues President Donald Trump
has?
So, thank you for the question. Let me start with this. Based on a life experience, I know that the vast majority of us have so much more in common than what separates us. And part of what pains me is the approach that, frankly, Donald Trump and some others have taken, which is to suggest that it's us versus them, whoever that may be. And having Americans point fingers at each other, using language that's about belittling people and calling them names and meant to make them afraid and live in fear. I don't think that's healthy for our nation. And I don't admire that. And in fact, I'm quite critical of it, coming from someone who wants to be president of the United States. I think Donald Trump loves his family, and I think that's very important. I think family is one of the most important things that we can prioritize. But I don't really know him, to be honest with you. I only met him one time on the debate stage. I'd never met him before. So I don't really have much more to offer you.
I don't really know him. I can't really say nice things about him. And look, I guess that was fair, but it was clear she didn't have a lot of nice things to say. And people ask that because they want to see how gracious you are. They want to see that, you're not vitriolic in your approach to viewing the other side. At least that's my thinking on why they would ask that. to see what type of grace you possess. But El Trompito, and forgive me, I said that was on with Colbert. That was in her town hall with Univision just about a week ago. Now, El Trompito tonight was on with Univision, and it was his turn. And by the way, they both stood in the middle of the studio with the studio audience and a camera facing them, and the camera has a teleprompter on it. And it's been all over Twitter and Instagram, people saying, aha, Trump was using a teleprompter after he accused Kamala of using one. And apparently that's just the shot. So I just want to call that out because both of them, in honesty, were far away enough from the prompter to probably not read it unless you have really good vision. I don't have really good vision. But either way, Trump was asked that same question just a couple of hours ago. I think they started at 10 p.m., or they aired it at 10 p.m., the town hall. And here's what he said when he had to give three nice things about Kamala Harris.
Se me hace justo hacerle exactamente la misma pregunta que le hice a la candidata demócrata.
Good evening, Mr. President. I only think it's fair to ask the same question I posed the Democrat candidate.
¿Cuáles son las tres virtudes que usted reconoce en la vicepresidenta Kamala Harris?
What are the three virtues that you see in Vice President Kamala Harris?
That's a very hard question. That's the toughest question. The other ones are easy. I'm not a fan. I think she's harmed our country horribly, horribly, at the border, with inflation, with so many other things. But she seems to have an ability to survive. Because, she was out of the race and all of a sudden she's running for president. That's a great ability that some people have and some people don't have. She seems to have some pretty long-time friendships, and that's, also, I don't call that an ability. I call that a good thing. And she seems to have a nice way about her. I mean, I like the way, some of her statements, some of her, the way she behaves in a certain way. But in another way, I think it's very bad for our country, But she does seem to have some relationships that be lasting. And she does seem to be a survivor. Because remember, she was the first one out, and all of a sudden she's running for president. And the other 21 people that are running, they're sitting home watching her on television, right? So that's by far the toughest question I've had today. Thank you very much.
I appreciate your answer.
So there you go. Now check that out. Both of them were reticent to give, kind words about the other. However, they both had a moment of very, very unguarded honesty, right? I think her moment of unguarded honesty, where she put her gloves down for a second and said, look, I really don't know this guy. I just met him for the first time at the debate. I think that was as honest as we've ever seen her. And I think Trump here, again, his moment of honesty saying, look, I'm not a fan, right? Keeping it real, keeping it a G, keeping it a buck. He was like, look, that's not what I do. But I think he was very honest in saying, look, she has some longtime friendships. She has an ability to survive. The fact that she was the first one out in the 2020 race and she couldn't get any money and she couldn't get any delegates. And yet here she is running against him. And honestly, he's giving her credit for that. I think that was a very honest place to be. And I think the comparison between the two, while I think they use similar strategies in answering the question, I think, honestly, if I had to be objective, which I'm rarely not, but I would say I think Trump really did a better job answering that question. He seemed more sincere. He seemed just overall more genuine in his response. And her response, albeit genuine, was just a little ill-spirited. And I think his was a lot gentler and a lot, he didn't mean her harm in that answer. To me, it seemed he came across as saying, look, I really don't like what she stands for our country. But she seems to have a nice way about her. And I mean, I think that's as honest as it can be. And I really did appreciate the response, hearing that response, because I think people need to see that side of Trump. It's the side of Trump I think that we often get on talk radio and when he does these long form interviews that allow him to showcase his personality and who he is. And anybody who's observed him from New York and knows him from back in the day, I think a lot of people have seen that side, the very generous side, or if you watched him on The Apprentice. Almost every challenge in that was for some sort of charity, right? It's always been about charity. So I think he's a very charitable guy. He's got a big heart. And, when Kamala's charitable, she's bailing out the people that are burning down Minnesota because Tim Walz let them. I mean, it's just different cup of tea, I guess, right? Just a whole different ballgame. Anyway, I want to get to your calls and more. We got calls from all over: Albany, New York, Utah, Charleston, South Carolina, Idaho, Boise area, Arkansas, Oregon, Florida, Delaware. We're coming your way straight ahead. Keep it locked right here.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez live with you till 1 a.m., taking your calls on everything that's going on in America at night. And I want to go to Doc in Wilmington, Delaware. Doc, go for it. WDEL.
Rich, thanks for a great show. Thanks for taking my call as always.
Yes, sir.
I want to make a controversial statement later on, but first on the election. I think President Trump is surging in the polls. I hear a lot of people, even here in Delaware. This is a deep blue state. There are a lot of people in Delaware who want to vote for him. Over the line in Pennsylvania, my friends that come into Delaware to do business and eat and have drinks in pubs, Pennsylvania is Trump country. I can tell you that right now. He's surging in that state. And I hope he wins. I don't agree with him on certain things, but we need change, and he is that change. I also like his vice president pick, Senator Vance. I think he's a wonderful pick. They're both a great team. I think I was better off financially. I'm a low-income guy who's a retired auto worker, Rich. I was much better off under President Trump than I am now. I'm not struggling. I'm okay, but I was much better off under him than I am now. Having said that, I've got to bring up a controversial thing about the opposition. I cannot prove this, so I'm not going to say it on national radio. There is quite possibly, a scandalous incident in Vice Presidential candidate Walz's background that could torpedo the entire campaign. It's on the web. It's on a couple of websites, but they're not wacko websites. They're credible. If this stuff proves to be credible, this campaign will be over within weeks.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, Doc. I think I know what you're talking about. I've seen some articles about somebody claiming that he sexually molested or abused them or something like that. The problem with these things is if there's no real credible claim from when it happened, right? If this didn't happen yesterday, it's never going to see the light of day. This is, again, the Brett Kavanaugh thing all over again. And that took forever to adjudicate, right? We don't have forever. We've got 19 days right now. All right, it's just after midnight now, so we've got 19 days. In 19 days, nothing will happen. He can totally ignore that, and nothing will happen. I'll tell you why. Because every time somebody says, oh, I'm a whistleblower, and I'm this, and I'm that, if you don't put your name on the line and come out and say it, you got to, and I learned in this business, you got to lead with your strongest, right? I'm never going to save my strongest for later. If the best audio clip I have, the best statement I'm going to make, whatever I've got, you're getting it. You're getting it live at 10 o'clock. And we're working our way from there, right? Open Phone America is probably one of the strongest parts of the show, but that happens to be in the third hour of the show. But you always lead with your strongest. And the fact that somebody's going to make a rumor and that they're thinking of going on the record and they might come out, nobody does these things anonymously and gets anywhere with it. If you're really coming out and you're saying, look, so-and-so touched me the wrong way and he did a Sean P. Diddy Combs on me, he did a Bill Cosby on me, This is how you need to have a full-on press conference and do it in front of their house, in front of their campaign office, and get every major news media to be there so that you can get the biggest bang for your buck. Because guess what? That story's now, I don't know, a week or two old on Twitter, and it still hasn't gone anywhere. That means it's not going to go anywhere. So I don't think anything's going to happen. Now, if it's a different story you're talking about, whatever. Worse, moreover, is the fact that, and the state of affairs we have in America, Doc, I believe that if somebody were to say something like that, I don't think a whole lot of people care, because we're in a part of life right now where you've got people that are teaching little kids bad things. You've got people that are advocating on radio. I've played it here. I don't know if you've heard it, but these clips where people call radio in Philly, calling saying, look, I'm with some organization that we're looking to destigmatize pedophilia. Who in their right mind would put their name and face to that? They're actually people. This woman right here, I got her name written on my notes, Dr. Lindsay Doe. It's another whack job. This lady says that she thinks that we have to make a distinction between people that suffer from pedophilia and people that are actually molesting children. Now, while you can make that distinction, which I'll say is a distinction without any difference in my opinion, some people think that there's a real line there and that we should respect them and accept that as a new sexual orientation. So, Doc, when we have, if that's the crowd that we're dealing with here, you tell me if they're going to give a damn if somebody said that they touched them inappropriately. Half of the people are going to say, oh, he probably liked it. The other half are going to say, oh, he's making it up because it's an election year ploy, and it's not going to have any legs. So that's my thought on that. Now, with respect to El Trompito, Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States, with respect to him surging, I believe the surge was always there. I think finally, as we get closer to Election Day, the pollsters, the media entities, they're running tighter polls. And now they're like, oh, man, we can't run cover anymore. Now we're just going to have to make it a nail biter because we're going to be dealing with Trump for the next 4 years. So that's what they're going to do. Because, again, I think I've said it time and again, I could be wrong. You know, if I have to eat crow, I will. Without COVID, without the fear, without everybody being afraid of, I'm going to lose my job, they're going to shut down the economy, you're going to kill my grandma, wear a mask, right? Don't sing in church, you're going to kill somebody. All those things, none of that's there. So when you say, no, 10 feet, bro, 6 feet, bro, you can't come over here and watch how I count these votes, none of that's there. People are watching the votes. You got lawyers that are out there. You got people that are filing lawsuits. It's not going to eliminate criminality and it's not going to destroy evil, but it is going to create an army of people out there that are watching like we never had before. And that is a huge plus. Doc, I want to thank you, brother. Always very, very, very insightful.
Thank you, sir.
You bet. And we're going to continue with your thoughts, your calls, and more straight ahead. The phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And we're going to continue with your calls. There's a lot of calls, so I'm going to get to as many of you as I can. But keep it locked. I'm really interested in hearing what everybody else has to say. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
So Kamala Harris and El Trompito again appearing in dueling appearances on TV news programs. Trump is on Univision answering questions about climate change and about everything else. And she's actually answering questions about her role as president, which I think is pretty good. And I think it was a good interview, honestly, I do. I think she handled some parts of it well. Other parts she bombed. But probably way better than her 60 Minutes performance, that's for sure. And this was also a pre-tape. And what I understand is there was no editing done, and there was also shortened time frame. That she was supposed to do it from 5:30 to 6, and I think she showed up, or from 5 to 5:30, so they could have it ready and packaged for 6 o'clock for his show. And I think she showed up at 5:15. So I don't know if that took some time off or not, or obviously it took time off. I just don't know if it took time off the finishing touches or it took time off the actual interview. And that's the latest on that stuff. I want to get back to your calls. Let me see here. I want to go to Andrew, Sebring, Florida, WEEU, streaming the show tonight. Go ahead.
Hey, Rich, how are you tonight?
Good, thank you, brother.
Good. I listen to you every night, of course. And tonight I turned on the radio and I heard you say that Liam from One Direction died. And I was fortunate enough when I was a yacht chef to cook for those guys. Didn't even know who they were. But we had them on our boat for 3 days, and they were really nice kids. And that's just completely crazy. So, I got to send out my condolences.
You never know.
It's nuts. Who knows what goes through people's head or whatever, but, that's just a hell of a way to go. Whether he did it on purpose or with a slip up, either way, that was just a hell of a way to go. And I just had to share that with you, man.
No, I appreciate it. I really do. Because, again, I only know these guys because my kids both liked their music, and they were like, the next big thing, 5, 7, 8 years ago, whatever it was. And it's one of those things. I got reports here saying he jumps from the balcony in Argentina. My daughter came in and told me about this right before showtime. And she said, "Oh, my God, Dad, Liam from One Direction fell off a balcony. But I think somebody pushed him." I said, "Why do you think that?" She said, "Because I saw it on the internet." And I was like, "Oh, man." There's a bunch of stories out here. It says police were informed of an aggressive man who may have been under the effects of drugs and alcohol. I don't know if that's him or someone else. These reports are all over the place. But the bottom line is they do know one thing, that he's not alive anymore. And it's really unfortunate. And, Andrew, to me, it kind of highlights just the bigger issue of tomorrow's really not a given, right? It's not promised to any of us. And oftentimes we have to remember that, right? You have to keep it kind of front and center. Somebody once shared some advice with me that if you want to have a peaceful life, treat everybody like you're never going to see them again. Like this is your final time. Whether it's them or you, that's not going to be here ever. And I did it for a while. And I got to tell you, it was impactful. You realize you're not going to fight over small stuff. You want to leave on the most positive note you can. You want to avoid certain types of offenses and conflict. Whereas normally, I think you guys get a sense of my personality. I try to be nice, but if I think you're wrong, I'm going to tell you you're a pendejo and you're wrong. And sometimes you want to hold back on that and maybe not call somebody a name and be a little bit politer and kinder. And not always easy to live that life, but just perspective nonetheless. Andrew, thanks for your call, my brother. I appreciate it. And I didn't know you were a professional cook, so kudos to you. Not an easy gig. Thank you for that. On that note, I also wanted to share that my pastor, when I was a teenager, I started going to an evangelical church in New Jersey. And he was the youth pastor then, and I found out last night that he died in a motorcycle accident. He was a Harley guy. And he's the guy who married me, and, my kids grew up in that church. And it was just a tough thing. Guy was only 61 years old and succumbed to some injuries of a motorcycle accident. So in loving memory of Dr. Joseph A. Santos. And I'll continue before we get too somber over here. Let me see. Where do we go? Who was next in line? Who else to cheer us up other than Jerome in Charleston, South Carolina, WTMA. Jerome, go for it.
What up, Rich Valdez?
My man.
8334 Valdez. What up, yo?
What's up, my man?
Rich. I'm ready to rock.
Are you ready to pull the lever for El Trompito?
No, I'm pulling the lever for the love of my life.
¿Qué mala eres?
Kamala Harris. I'm in love. Yes, Harry. She's on TV now, looking as beautiful as ever.
Yeah, she's not a bad-looking lady. Now let's talk about your vote. Are you voting today? Is it early voting?
Yeah, I got my absentee ballot. I got to mail it back in and get my stuff and everything. But I'm
so
ready.
you're doing a mail-in ballot.
She's 59 and she's still caliente. Muy, muy, mucho caliente, Rich.
Yeah, listen, I think that's probably half the reason she's doing well in the polls.
Hey, just tell her I'm going to vote for you, but please be gentle because I'm very dainty. You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness, Jerome. Now, did you see her? Did you see her on with Brett Baer? What did you think of that interview?
Yeah, I saw her with mean old, chubby, fat Brett Baer. Yeah. Oh, tell Fox just in case. I heard that I saw that Rupert got married again for number 5. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5. And when I say it, I really believe it. Okay, but tell him stash away a little $780 million just in case you might need it. Okay, because Trump says he's going to steal the election if he can do it, but we'll see.
Trump's not stealing anything. They're going to hand this election to Trump on a silver platter. Your girlfriend is just not equipped for the job. Her foreign policy chops aren't there. Her economic policy chops aren't there. Her ability to answer questions on the spot aren't there. The only thing she's got going is that, she wears those nice pearl earrings and she does her hair well. But I don't think that's going to be enough to get it across the finish line. Jerome in South Carolina, Charleston area. Thank you, my brother. WTMA, we live to fight another day. And, folks, I'm going to pause right here, coming right back with the rest of your calls. 833-4-VALDEZ. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. America at Night, your home for the best election coverage.
Well, look at the 3 candidates I'm here to fight for. Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, Ruben Gallego. All 3 of them grew up in the middle class, are different variations of the American dream, folks who were raised, in the case of Ruben and Kamala, by a single mom who grew up hardworking, middle-class American families. Tim Walz, someone who in his childhood in Nebraska also knows what it means to live and work paycheck to paycheck. That's in sharp contrast to Donald Trump, someone who inherited hundreds of millions of dollars, spent most of his life as a billionaire developer out of New York City.
All right, so that's Senator Chris Coons talking about the middle class there. And I want to go to Jason in Aurora, Illinois on WLS. Jason, go ahead.
Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
Wonderful, thank you.
Everything I see is we're helping out the middle class, we're helping out the upper class, and nobody's helping the lower class. And they always say these benefits are available. They're not.
So who do you want to help and how? What income brackets are we talking about?
The Democrats are not going to help. Especially here living near Chicago. I'm about 30 miles outside Chicago.
Well, I think Democrats help all sorts of people. I mean, the less. What income brackets are you talking about, and what kind of help are you looking for?
$20,000 to $30,000 a year, and you're looking at apartments where I'm at of
but at $20,000 to $30,000 a year, you qualify for Section 8. You qualify for food stamps. You qualify for probably cash assistance, like welfare. I mean, there's a lot of aid that's available in that bracket. Not that I recommend it. I know it's there. And you'll go to college for free, and your kids will go to college for free.
Everybody goes, well, no, I can't because I was born in the United States.
That doesn't matter. You'll get a full Pell Grant. You'll probably get a an educational opportunity grant through the state. So, trust and believe that people who are in lower income brackets have the most opportunity, the most social programs are available to them, I believe. I do believe that the middle class is probably what was once known as, the middle income earner. They're the ones, the people that don't own a home and are making some good money and saving towards a home. That's the toughest spot to be in right now. You don't get a whole lot of tax benefit. I mean, you get some, but you don't get a whole lot. You don't make enough money to get the famous tax cuts of the rich that they're always talking about. And you can't really write off any mortgage interest or anything unless you own a business and you're not doing well in your business, and then you're still in that middle income, 40, 50, 60,000, I'm going to say. It makes it almost impossible for those people to become a homeowner or to really move forward. And I think part of what Trump talks about a lot, this whole Make America Great Again concept, is really based on that. In many ways, it's about what happened to the America that he grew up in, right? The America where a dad was making, $45,000 a year and was able to send his kids to college, go on 1 or 2 vacations a year, maybe even buy a house and a vacation home on $45,000 a year. Well, what's happened is inflation. And inflation on a number of things has gone incredibly out of control, right? What a car used to cost, a car doesn't cost anymore. What a home used to cost, you used to be able to buy a lot of house for $250,000, and it somehow has become acceptable to all of us to say, "Oh, that was 20 years ago, 30 years ago." Well, I'm going to say, in 20 or 30 years, should we really be having the conversation that, it's going to cost you 1.5 to get your starter home? It's not like you're moving to out of the ghetto where you're going to be spending 3.5, right? Is that the conversation we're going to have? Is that the type of inflation we're going to have? So ultimately, our monetary policy has to be handled. We have to figure out how to allow Americans to slow down inflation, and we have to be able to make money and buy things that make our lives worth I'm going to say worth living, right? I mean, obviously it's not the buying things that does that, but make it worthwhile. And that's, I think, where Trump wants to go, to make things fair again, to make things reasonable for people, so that it doesn't have to be a pipe dream for you have to make 150K and your wife has to make 150K. And between the two of you, now maybe you can think of buying a small place. That's just not the reality for most people, when the median income in America, I think, is $62,000. And I might be off a little bit on that number, but that's, for the most part, that's the number. It becomes a fantasy. So, Jason, I think what ends up happening is we have to really, really ask ourselves some tough questions and make some very tough decisions, like how much more of China are we going to allow into the country? How do we actually get to that place again? Well, guess what? When we were doing that, we were growing cotton in our country. We were making textiles in our country. We were embroidering those textiles and manufacturing things. And the only reason I know that is because I moved from Brooklyn to Hudson County, New Jersey, and I went to North Bergen High School. And when I was in high school, if you needed to have a fight after school and went around the block, you went down the block, there was nothing but embroidery factories on those blocks there between Tunnelly Avenue and Kennedy Boulevard, 76th Street, 73rd, all those 76th, 75th, 74th, all that Cottage Avenue, nothing but factories there. Most of them are gone now, or have become gas stations, or Chick-fil-A or Wawa or whatever it is that's down there now. But ultimately, we were once known as Silk City, right? Union City, New Jersey was a huge textile and embroidery capital of the world. What happened to that? China, right? And that all happened in the 90s. So as that started to happen, things became more expensive, and we had less. But things started to turn the corner in the Trump administration, right? The people with the least amount of money that faced the most poverty, Hispanics, African Americans, other minorities, they started increasing their amount of home ownership. And for everybody, the median household income went up. That was a big deal. So I think if we would have continued on that trajectory, without COVID getting in the way, without Trump not doing another 4 years, we would have seen a lot more progress. And that's my hope, that come November 5th, people will pull the trigger for Donald Trump so that he'll have a chance to kind of finish what he started and keep going in that direction to, make the dollar worth more and to give us more buying power for our dollar. Won't happen overnight. I'd say we're probably looking at a 10-year plan, and he's only got 4. But he can kick it off, and we can get the engine going again. That's my thought. Jason, thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Folks, quick pause right here. Then it's back to you guys for the speed round. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, quick breaking news. This happened about 30 minutes ago. The United States has dropped some bombs targeting underground bunkers used by Yemen's Houthi rebels. They dropped these with a B-2 stealth bomber. It's not immediately clear what they destroyed. Like usual, Biden usually destroys empty fields and things like that. No other reports of the B-2 Spirit being used in the strikes, targeting the Houthis, who have been attacking ships for months, hurting lots of American servicemen and women, getting hit with brain injuries and things of that nature. This has been going over the Red Sea corridor as part of the Israeli-Hamas war in the Gaza Strip. It's kind of a concurrent action that's going on. And this is some action that was taken again by the United States just about a half hour ago. So you'll be hearing all about this tomorrow. And like many things on our program, we cover them first because we're on at night, and we bring you everything that's going on in America at night. And with, very, very limited time to go, I want to go to John in Horseshoe Bend, Arkansas, KSAR. Go for it, quickly.
Hey, how you doing? It's about time they did something right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I hear that.
I did not hear about that. I didn't hear the whole thing about the molestation thing, but I was molested when I was 10 years old by a 17-year-old on drugs in my neighborhood. I never told my mom or my dad because I didn't want to bring them into it. And I told my mom when I was 48 years old that it happened just to let her know. My dad died and he never found out. But if this isn't true, it's a bad thing for people who have really been molested because it takes away from them. And it's like, well, he's not telling the truth, so this person's not telling the truth, and it's not. And it's not that way.
Yeah, well, that's a really good point that you bring up, and I realize that, I've heard this before that there's shame, and there's fear, and there's many reasons that go into why people don't disclose. But ultimately, if you're doing it because you're thinking, and I don't mean you, but if one is doing it because they think, this guy's running for VP and he has to be stopped, then you have to have that same level of courage and say, and he did it to me, and this is how it happened, and go to the police and make it known. Because if it's an anonymous accusation, it's not going to go anywhere, and that's the problem. But excellent point, John in Horseshoe Bend. I appreciate that. Thank you for your honesty and your candor, and God bless you, man. Hope all is well with you. Where do we go here? Ken, Logan, Utah, KVNU, excuse me. Go for it, quickly.
Yeah, hi, Rich. Great to have your program out here in our neck of the woods, Crossroads of the West.
Thank you.
Talking to my brother a couple hours ago, he says people forget that something happens to Donald Trump medically wise, and J.D. Vance has to take over. Something happens to Kamala Harris, and Waltz has to take over. And I says, the guy has actually admitted that he's a knucklehead himself.
Exactly. He's a knucklehead, and it's a clear choice between the two of them. Who do you want to be your VP? Hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night, and God bless you, America. Ken, thank you. I'm Rich Valdez.